How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Devin the Bear. There's a lot of things we're really excited to discuss this weekend, especially that Yuri Prochazka versus Dominic Reyes fight happened on UFC Vegas 25. A lot of good fights on that card, a lot of back and forth things, a lot of things we didn't really agree with. And so let's go ahead and get started. One of the fights that stuck out to us was on the prelims. It was TJ Brown getting a decision win over Kai Kamaka. Two up-and-coming featherweights. Both these guys came in great shape, great technique. I mean, they definitely were able to implement their game plans here and there. So,
yeah, I feel like that was a really fun fight. It was very back and forth, but I feel like it was definitely the story of two different strikers with two different mentalities as strikers.
yeah.
You have one guy, TJ Brown, who likes to be efficient but also pretty constant with the pressure. Even if he's the one moving backwards, he's the one throwing. He likes to make sure he's the one throwing, which works pretty well. On the other hand, you have Kai Kamaka, who likes to hit hard. He's got great combinations. They're very crisp, and he hits hard. So when he catches you, that's it. But he also kind of found himself, I think, a lot in that fight looking for that one punch or that one combination to really set himself up for the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
I think he just never really had it. So I think it all definitely went into that third round, because the first round was all Kai Kamaka standing his ground and landing the more significant strikes. I mean, I could be wrong. I'd have to look at the numbers, but I think that he did land more significant strikes in the first round. But the second round, TJ Brown got those the takedowns, and that really just kind of gave him the win for that round. And then the third round is kind of where it all, like, whoever fights harder in this round wins it. And Kai Kamaka just did what he did the whole fight, and he just kind of hung back waiting for that good punch. Even his corner told him, like, hey, that's what you're doing. It'll come, but you got to set it up. You got to do something to get it. It won't just sit there for you.
Yeah.
And he kind of coasted the last, like, 2 minutes of that round, and TJ Brown stuck it on him, and I think that's what won him the fight.
Yeah, and so, like, especially in the first round, Kai Kamaka was looking good. TJ Brown was throwing a lot of things that weren't really landing yet. He was still trying to find his distance, and Kamaka was very, very calm in that first round. He definitely did a lot of good things. He was landing the better shots, but whenever, the rest of the fight happened, he kind of kept that same pace. He stayed back, stayed patient, while TJ Brown learned his distance after those first 5 minutes, went in the second round, learned his distance, and when he threw, he actually tagged Kamaka very well. Kamaka kind of got him back with a good one, but it just kind of went. It was going more to TJ Brown. TJ Brown was able to keep the same pace that he had in the first round for the rest of the fight. And so I think we'll definitely see both those guys back, man. I mean, it was a very fun fight. I mean, when you see a featherweight fight, it's kind of what you expect. Two guys that hit hard, very fast. So I mean, they're pretty much just a little undersized lightweights, which is crazy to me that these guys were featherweights though.
They looked huge, both of them.
Yeah.
Kai Kamaka is very stocky, very muscular. TJ Brown is just long and muscular. They both looked really big for featherweights. It was really weird. But yeah, I think if they ever do rematch, I hope that it's later down the road when they've both kind of improved a lot with their game planning. If they're even ones for game planning, but just with their overall approach to a fight. I hope that they rematch at a time when they're just better overall fighters, because I think they make for another great fight.
Yeah.
It's just like Dustin Poirier and Cub Swanson when they first fought. It's very exciting, very back and forth. But I think it would have been better if they had ever rematched. But, Dustin Poirier ends up moving up to lightweight, finding more success there. So we won't see that, and we'll get Cub Swanson actually fought on this card, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I remember that happened in the same card was the Honda Marcos and the Luana Pinheiro.
Ronda Marcos.
What's that?
It'd be Ronda Marcos.
Ronda Marcos. Oh, is she Canadian?
Yeah, she's Canadian.
Really?
Yeah.
And I thought she was Brazilian. And so, but yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. I mean, it was a lot of Pinheiros. She was able to implement that judo background that she has really easily.
Oh man, her judo looked good.
What was that? I think she had 4 takedowns in the first round,
and they were all tosses.
Yeah,
they were all hip tosses,
and they were hard
beautiful.
Tosses, and you could tell
really good tosses.
You could tell by that fourth one that she was Ronda was starting to feel those as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they were starting to weigh down on her a little bit. Ronda was going in there when she wanted a dogfight. She was going in there as fast as she could. And just
she
really
did come out firing a lot.
She was just throwing. I mean, for what I expected out of her, she's throwing kind of sloppy punches for what I mean. it wasn't really
some
landing.
of the punches were landing.
Yeah.
But as soon as you come in like that against someone who, the second you close the distance on them with kind of wild punches, each time she did that, Pinheiro just clinched up with her and then slammed her to the ground. So it's like, maybe don't do that, especially after the fourth time. And she did it with ease. The second she had her over under, she did it with ease. Like I know everybody will talk about Ronda Rousey's judo. Obviously her judo is great. But another person I think that had really, really good judo throws was Tim Boach. Yeah. And it looked like Tim Boach out there because he would get you going through the air.
Yeah.
And then he would slam you down.
He had some nice judo throws, and no one ever
did.
expected it whenever he would do it. It was just so nice to see this. You know, you see this guy walking in. He looks like he just kind of, he's in shape. He kind of still has a dad bod, and he comes in there and he just does that. And I did make the mistake, though. You were right. She is Canadian, and she was born in Iraq. So apologies if for that. But yeah, I mean, it was just but it was kind of what we saw. Kind of sucked. We the fight ended in a disqualification for Ronda Marcos. She hit Pinheiros with a illegal up kick while she was on her knees. And I mean, I remember as soon as it happened, it was just like, man, and it sucked. I didn't agree with the stoppage. I didn't think she was as hurt as she was.
Yeah, it's definitely some Emmy Award winning, Oscar Award winning acting there. Yeah, maybe she was hurt. It's always kind of a tough call. Like, we can all sit on our couches and watch this card on the TV and go, she's acting. But we don't know what she's going through unless you've been hit with an up kick, which I've been hit by kicks. Never been hit by an up kick when I'm completely open to one. Which she was. Her hands were down, her legs were down. She's just sitting there with her face in the air. And took a foot to the face. I don't think any heel connected. I think it was all it's
all top of the foot.
Yeah. So I don't know how much power was put into it, but she did get kicked in the face. It was illegal. I think that's the only time I've ever had an issue with something Mark Smith did as a ref. I know he's getting a lot of crap lately for kind of ridiculous reasons. I think he's been under fire for no reason, really. But this one, instead of... He said it because it was intentional that it's an immediate disqualification. But I don't know how intentional it was. It all happened really fast. Pinheiro definitely looked like she was getting up. So I think if Ronda Marcos said, no, I thought she was stood up. I thought she was in the middle of standing up. I would kind of believe it because she kind of steps out of the guard a little bit and then sits up, like she postures up, and isn't connected so much to Marcos anymore. So I'm like, okay, she's about to stand up. I kind of think I would have thought the same thing. It's a really tricky situation, but I don't really agree with Mark Smith just ending it there, saying, no, it was intentional. That's a DQ right there. So it's really tricky, but yeah, I definitely don't agree with Pinheiro flopping on the ground like that. Acting like she was on a different universe because of how badly it hurt her or rocked her. We've seen people get knocked out cold, and 2 minutes later, they're joking into the microphone.
We just saw Jorge Masvidal would
do exactly that.
Yeah.
We've seen people like Dustin Poirier, Aljamain Sterling, take illegal shots and not act that mentally out of it. Yeah. Aljamain Sterling, emphasis on the word act, I guess, because he maybe did a little bit of that. But again, it's hard to accuse them of acting. We didn't know what kind of strike they took. We don't know. But if we were to have an opinion, my opinion is that she acted.
I think she definitely acted very hard.
The second the kick lands, she looks at the ref as she starts to fall back, and it's like, okay. And I saw that live. Yeah. And when they show the replays, I'm like, yeah, look. Right there. Yeah. She looks at the ref and then falls back. And apparently she asked, did I lose the fight? And they said, no, you don't lose the fight. You don't lose the fight. It'll either be a no contest or a disqualification depending on where we get from here with the medical testing. Yeah. Or when the doctors came in. And so she kind of milked it. I think she did. I know
that she asked her coach a question as well. And the Mark Smith looked at him and said, you cannot ask her that. He cannot ask that. Can she fight? That's what we need to know.
Yeah. And again, I like Mark Smith. I like him asking those questions. We watched this fight together. You were there. I was sitting there going like, yes, Mark Smith.
Yeah.
Get them done right. Do this right. And like I said, I don't agree with it being a disqualification. I think it, at least a no contest.
Yeah.
But it's a crappy way to win, and it's an even worse way to lose, especially for someone like Ronda Marcos. I think she's a fantastic fighter.
Yeah.
She's very sound in all aspects of the game. She's a good person. She's been fighting at the top level for a long time now. You go look at the list of fighters she's gone against, and it's all top tier people.
Yeah, she's never cut a break.
Yeah,
honestly.
Carla Esparza, Carolina Kowalkiewicz, Claudia Gadelha, Amanda Hebos, just nonstop. Angela Hill, nonstop people who are just top tier fighters that she's had to go against. But that leaves our record at 10-10 on a 4-fight losing streak. And that's 5 of her last 6 fights that are losses.
Yeah.
So she might be looking at getting cut. They haven't cut Sam Alvey yet, have they? I haven't seen that yet.
So, no.
So I mean, you never know. Maybe with the way this loss was, they're gonna be like, nah, you still got your contract going. We're gonna keep working with you.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case. Like I said, she's a good person. I think she's a good fighter. She's a good person. She deserves it. Just kind of a crappy situation, which it's all up to the ref at that point. It's all up to the doctors at that point. Just very, very unfortunate. Not the way you want to see a fight go, especially a fight that was that interesting. Because like you said, you had Marcos who was going in there and throwing heavy.
Yeah.
And then you had Pinheiro who was just catching every single thing and then throwing her straight to the ground with ease. So it's interesting because anytime they stand back up, Marcos is going to be looking for the knockout.
Yeah, and I think Pinheiros knew that because would she be able to toss her around all like that for the next
whole fight?
10 more minutes they had left. It was going into the last minute of that fight, of that round, just the first round, in which already had sucked because there was already a little bit of a break because Pinheiro hit a very, very nasty eye poke.
Yeah. And then even then, I was like, dude, Mark Smith, all over it.
Yeah.
Because he's all over it with the eye poke. He's watching it, and he's helping. He's talking to Marcos, keeping her engaged, talking to her, making sure the doctor gets in there. Mm-hmm. And then he catches Pinheiro walking to her corner. He goes, whoa, 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 no, you get back over there.
Yeah.
And then he looks over, and Marcos is kind of leaning towards her corner, and he goes, no. And I'm like, good for you, man. And then he pulls this crap.
Yeah, and so it's like I do agree with what the up kick was intentional. I don't think she knew.
Well, it was it was intentional, but the illegal up kick wasn't intentional. Right. She threw an up kick.
Yeah,
it was obvious she was trying to throw an up kick, but I don't think that she meant for an illegal up kick.
Right.
So there's a difference between throwing an up kick intentionally,
right,
and then throwing an up kick intentionally, knowing it's illegal.
Right.
I don't think she knew it was illegal, especially with her reaction.
Yeah.
That's not something she meant to do. I don't think she meant to throw an illegal strike. I don't think she was trying to fight dirty. She never has, so I don't see what this isn't part of her character.
And so like what would make it illegal is the fact that she had a knee down. She was unaware of it, and accidents do happen. It's like when people have accidental knees on the ground. Yeah. It's the same situation if you really consider it. I see both sides on it, but it's like I see why it was illegal, why there was a disqualification, but it's like, hey, well, she wasn't aware. It's like when with accidental knees, like when Eddie Alvarez kneed Dustin Poirier. And he threw one, and then after that, he was like, "Oh wait, this is legal because the rules had changed. You could have hands down and knee somebody." And then when he landed the first one, it hurt Dustin, and then he throws another one while his knee's down.
No, I think you can't have hands down, but you can have one knee down and not be considered a grounded fighter. But I think it's either both knees or if your hands are touching, if both hands are touching, you're not
right.
Up opponent, you're a downed opponent. And so like you're saying, he throws that first knee and it's legal, and I think he's like, oh, okay, well, let me throw another one, and he really loads into that second one, but that second one's illegal, and that's what killed the fight for him. And that was intentional, but did he mean for it to be an illegal strike?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say with Eddie. That's probably a bad example to bring up.
That one's kind of difficult because the rules had like just changed like maybe a month before that.
Yeah.
And you throw that first one, and that's not a strike that fighters who have been fighting in the UFC or for Eddie Alvarez, Bellator at that point, or one's different. But Bellator, they are not used to throwing that strike. That's not something they do instinctively. That's not something they do as a reaction. They don't, it's just, flow. It's part of the muscle memory. No, they don't do that. They know not to do that. He threw that first one, and I think, am I saying that he was trying to throw an illegal knee? I don't know. I think what I'm trying to say is he threw that first one, and when he realized, oh, hey, that's not illegal, I can throw that.
Yeah. He went to throw
the next one. He tried to throw another one, but that one's illegal because now Dustin Poirier has put both his hands on the mat. He's considered a downed opponent. And he's a downed opponent. So in this case, you look at Marcos and her positioning. She can't see Pinero's hands. She just knows they're no longer on her because she was just in her guard, and now she's getting up. So with her getting up, I would probably also like I said, I would also kind of assume she's starting to stand up. What do people do when they start to stand up? They lift their knees up. So if your knees aren't on the ground and you just took your hands off of that person's body from guard, they're probably not a downed opponent.
Yeah.
Is it smart to throw an up kick right then and there? No. Maybe not. But if it's there and it's a dangerous move.
If she sees somebody with their hands down, she says, oh, I have an opening, and just throws thrust right into this up kick.
And it's rough, especially with someone who's now 10-10.
Yeah.
I think actually she's the first UFC women's fighter to ever have 10 losses in the UFC.
Jesus.
So that's not a record you want to hold, but that's one that she has.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the headliner on the prelims. And hopefully we'll see Ronaldo Marcos back. It kind of sucks to see that happen, but I mean, she's fought killers, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame her whenever too. I mean, look at the person. One of her losses was to Mackenzie Dern, who's more than likely next in line for a title shot. Mm-hmm. So it's like, man,
what's she supposed to do?
Yeah, it's like
you keep feeding her to the grinder. She's not gonna come out without any marks.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. She's gonna have losses.
Yeah,
and not all of the people that she's fought, she's lost to. She's beaten some top name people. Carla Esparza, I think she beat. So it's not like she's going out there and losing constantly. She just loses half the time.
Yeah, she has a win over Angela Hill. Also.
Angela Hill, yeah, and beating Angela Hill, and she won by decision, right?
She armbar.
Armbar? Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind then. Beating Angela Hill in a fight is hard to do. Mm-hmm. So like I said, she's not going out there and losing. She's not a bad fighter. She's a good fighter. So if she gets cut, it's unfortunate.
Top competition.
I kind of understand why she would get cut, but it's just like, come on.
I mean, especially in that weight class that she's in, in the strawweight division, there's just nothing but killers in that women's division. And it's just all those women are top tier athletes. They're all good. You've seen one, like, look at Weili Zhang. I mean, Zhang was only 3 years into the UFC. She was already champion. With her, I think she's on her third year. As she lost the belt, but I mean, she rose quick, and then she was already doing that. But so with the main card had some good back and forth fights. You saw some great performances by some people. Definitely that bantamweight fight was a good way to start off the card for the night. Was Miro Dvalishvili versus he defeated Cody Stamann by decision. And it was a good back and forth fight. I mean, you got two guys who are kind of built the same. Mirov's a little stockier. He's a little shorter, but...
And they both like to wrestle.
Yeah, they both like to wrestle, but they also both like to box at the same time. And Mirov's very good at mixing his boxing with his wrestling. And he's dominant at his... He's very, very dominant with his wrestling. I mean, it's just the way he's able to disguise it. I remember he got a takedown on Cody Stamann. I want to say it was the second round. He's able to disguise that takedown so well with a punch. And he just went in there and just was able to take him down. And, I mean...
Reminds me of Uriah Faber.
Yeah.
Throwing the overhand right into a takedown.
Yeah.
That was always really good. And then he started using the uppercut. He would go for an uppercut just to get in close and have you lift your guard up a little bit, and then he would shoot in low for a takedown. And he was so quick at changing the levels. It was good. It's
how he knocked out. I don't think he actually submitted Brian Bowles with that because he faked him out with the shovel uppercut, and then he hurt him with it. He saw the opening, did it, and then stung him really well. I mean, you saw Brian Bowles' eye swell up immediately right under the cheek where he landed it, and then got the guillotine and got the submission.
That's when Brian Bowles was good.
Yeah.
Brian Bowles was the man.
Before he was selling drugs. So
yeah. Out in the woods, Tweakerville.
Yeah, that's really what happened. And so, but I mean, Mirov's definitely coming up. He trains with a great team. Trains with Ray Longo, Matt Serra, and we all know that those fighters right there are incredible fighters. I mean, they trained Ali Quinta, trained Chris Weidman. They trained champion right now, Aljamain Sterling, who we actually talked about it when news
who
broke.
You want to be associated with right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like we'll just put an asterisk by his name. Like we have the paper champion. Yeah. Which we actually just discussed, and nobody knows yet, Aljamain Sterling's going to be out for 9 months for neck surgery.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so we're going to see what's going to happen with the bantamweight division. I mean, Pretorian's already saying to strip him, so
he should be stripped.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I don't think I can use the word should. Who am I? I think he should be stripped. You win the belt by DQ. That's kind of already a joke.
Yeah.
You were losing that fight horrendously.
Yeah.
You're considered by every fighter in your division a joke.
Yeah.
And that being said, Aljamain Sterling is no joke. He is a fantastic fighter. Earned that title shot with numerous wins. But that's not how you win a title. And he knows it.
Yeah.
So you're out 9 months. You won a title through DQ. They should definitely, if not strip him, enter him. When was the last time they had an interim championship that made sense?
I think it was Renan Barão who should have been champion when Dominic Cruz was out.
When Dominic Cruz was out, yeah.
For a very
That's the only
long
one
time.
that makes sense, because I remember they had an interim champ whenever it was Conor or Khabib.
Yeah,
and Dustin had to fight Max Holloway for it.
There was a whole string of interim champs, starting with the bantamweight division. I mean, after that, that's when the featherweight had a interim champ for a long time. Even after Conor won the belt, there's an interim champ with that. Jose Aldo became interim champ, and then even lightweight division had an interim champ. And so,
but I think heavyweight was plagued with interim champs for so long because they couldn't keep anybody.
Yeah.
Tim Sylvia, I think, was a big part in that, but yeah, the heavyweight division had so many interim championships. It was like a mix. It was starting with Tim Sylvia and then Frank Mir, and then all this nonsense that happened when Lesnar came in and Randy Couture, and Frank Mir was still involved with that. It was just like pretty constant. There was always like someone who technically is a champion, but he's not going to be fighting. So you guys fight for who's going to fight him, and then he never come back.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. It's hard because I don't like seeing interim champs. I want to see the belt get defended. Yeah. And especially with this past year, so many championships have been held up, and they've kind of slowly, surely been put into work. But I think with that, if they were to strip him of the title, I mean, it would make sense to just be like, hey man, we're gonna strip you and we're gonna give you a title shot as soon as you come back, because he's gonna be out for 9 months, and then on top of that, he's gonna have to have physical therapy, all that, because we've seen how these guys react to neck surgeries. They take a lot of punishment.
Chris Weidman.
Chris Weidman, the guy he trains with, is having neck surgery, and so I don't really know what they're gonna want to do with that division. But Mirov's coming up. He got a great win over a tough fighter in Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann, his only losses are against top guys as well. Yeah. So
there's some guys in one that I could see ending up in the UFC. Mm-hmm. Maybe not while Sterling is out. Yeah. But if they end up in the UFC's division with him, I think he just has trouble with these guys like Aliv. Yeah. I'm blanking on his name. His name's Aliv. Anyway, I
would like to see Manel Cape move up to bantamweight. I think that would make sense. Who? Manel Cape.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I think he needs to do something. He had a lot of hype riding on him, and then he loses. But he loses in a way that shows he maybe wasn't ready.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he was supposed to be. He had a lot of hype coming in, especially for being a flyweight. I mean, that dude is stocky. But I would like to see him move up to bantamweight. I think his power and everything would translate very well going up 10 pounds, and probably the weight cut would be much easier for him as well. But yeah, so for that, I mean, we'll definitely see what's next for Merab. But the next fight was a good performance. It was a midweight bout. Sean Strickland defeated Krzysztof Jotko by decision. And Sean Strickland showed that he was just a better fighter. He dominated him all 3 rounds.
Which I think, as far as the odds go, I think that was kind of what was expected. Yeah. Yodko's really good, but he's got a lot to learn. He's got a lot to learn, and I think we knew that coming into this. It's one of those things like we were talking about last time with Aaron Pico. He's good. We know he's good.
Yeah.
It's not to say he's not good, but we can tell that there's so many areas in the fight where he needs experience in, and Krzysztof Yodko will get there.
Yeah. It just takes some time.
Yeah, he's too good to not come back from this. It was a pretty fun fight to watch, but there wasn't a moment where Sean Strickland wasn't winning that fight.
Yeah, he's on a pretty good win streak right now as he's going back to middleweight. I mean, he's only really lost to really tough guys. He has a loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. He has a loss to Kamaru Usman, who's their current champ. That was when he was at welterweight. So definitely him being at middleweight is definitely translating very well for him, and we expect to see a lot of good things out of it as well. So I mean, it was just a good performance. I mean, you saw the one guy was just much better than the other guy. And so, and then to move on to the next one, Ion Cutelaba and Dustin Jacoby, there's a lot of beef coming into this fight with these guys. And,
like the weigh-ins. Cutelaba. Cutelaba's always a wild dude at weigh-ins, whether he's painting himself green to look like the Hulk.
Yeah.
Rushing in, getting in people's faces. But this time he got kind of like a single collar grab on
Dustin Jacoby.
Thank you. He got like a single collar grab on Dustin Jacoby and like yanked him to him, which, after having the issues with Jeremy Stevens and Drakkar Klose, you don't really want to see that right now. So they kind of got into it a little bit. They pulled him away pretty quick.
Yeah.
But Dana White, blaming Sean Shelby for not being able to get between these two little guys.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. You see, it's not so easy. Even if you know it's coming, which with Ion Cutelaba, it's coming.
Yeah. I didn't, even though he does stuff like that, I didn't expect it. He walked in, shook Dana White's hand, and does that immediately. So I think they were all very thrown off to see it. But I mean, I was kind of laughing to see it happen to Dana White though, because he had just said that he was ragging on Sean Shelby for that happening with them too, and it's like, well, what's your excuse now? What are you gonna say? Oh, well, you could have. I mean, you're the guy that's getting between these guys. You could have prevented it, but you didn't. And so,
yeah, that was it was an interesting fight. I don't know if we've said the result yet.
No,
it ended in a draw because Cutelaba dominated the first round. There was nothing Dustin Jacoby could do to stop him, whether it was standing up or takedown. And Jacoby's a former pro kickboxer from Glory, so his stand-up is good.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't do anything in the first round. The second round he looked a little better, but it being a 10-8 round really throws things off, because now even if you win the next round 10-9, you're still losing.
Yeah.
So you have to really go out and dominate the next two rounds. You can't just win.
Yeah.
You have to dominate. And he didn't do that, which I know I was kind of talking about it when it was happening, and I know that I think the commentators even said it, Bisping and Felder. I think that they were even talking about it. They kind of figured that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But there were so many moments where Jacoby could have finished it. He had Ion Cutelaba hurt a few times and just never placed the right shots. He wasn't really going for it like I think that he should have, especially knowing that first round was probably a 10-8. His corner should have been on him about it. Maybe they were, but if they weren't, you need to be, because that's a fight you can't lose. Because now that he's lost that, he's got to go back to fighting probably unranked guys. Yeah. Cutelaba's ranked. He's a big name. He's moving his way up. He just come off two losses, so he needed to win, and he went out there and he tried to get it. He gassed himself out in that first round, but he never slowed down. He never stopped, and Dustin Jacoby just kind of coasted the whole fight. Yeah. So I don't know why. I don't know why fighters do that. It's exactly what we were talking about with Kai Kamaka. Yeah. Johnny Hendricks has done that in a few fights, title fights nonetheless.
Who DC's done it. He's notorious for it, because he's even said when he's fighting in a 5-round fight, he'll coast the third round. And look at most of his finish when he's been knocked. He got knocked out by John Jones in the third round because he was just coasting it. Yeah. I mean, whenever he fought Stipe Miocic, he talked about that. He said that And that's when Miocic made the adjustments and was getting those body shots, and that eventually hurt him enough in the fourth round for Stipe to get the TKO win. So it was just, yeah, man, you really can't coast it whenever you're already down 10-8 in a round. Because even if you win the next 2 rounds, if nobody that really understands how MMA scoring works, you're scored round that starts at 10, and if you do bad, then it goes 9, then 8, and even to 7. So if you have somebody who's down, whose first scorecard is going to be 8, the next 2 are going to be 10s, that's 28. While Cutelaba, he has a 10 round, and then he's tired now. So Dustin Jacoby's being dominant, so it's gonna be 10 round for Jacoby. That guy's gonna be at 28 as well, And so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna end up in a draw if you don't dominate, and he didn't dominate. And against a guy like Cutelaba, you have to stop him because he's not gonna stop.
No,
he's constantly in your face.
Yeah, I mean that's what the guys that he's lost to as well. He lost to Glover Teixeira by submission because eventually Glover was able to just wear him out and get that win in there real quick, But
and now Glover's fighting for the belt, so I don't know, Dustin. Just go out there and win this fight. You might be looking for a title shot soon.
Because I don't see them making that rematch anytime soon. I mean,
no.
I mean, I was working, but Zach had watched the fight, so I mean, I'm sure what he had catch me up on was that it wasn't a very exciting fight to be like, we need to rerun this one back.
Yeah, if they do rerun it back, it's solely because the fighters want it that badly.
Yeah.
And I think if they run it back, it does go differently. But it all depends on who made the adjustments that they needed to make. Because Cutelaba didn't look good.
Yeah.
He looked better than Dustin Jacoby.
Yeah.
But he didn't look good. And that's why it was a draw, because he gassed himself out in that first round.
And that's why if you look at, Ian Cutelaba's record, the guys that he loses to are always usually later in the fights. Like when he lost to Misha Serkinov, like it was in the third round. Misha Serkinov, he lost to him in the third round. Then he fights, one of his other losses, Jared Cannonier, a middleweight contender who fought a heavyweight, went down to light heavyweight, lost him by decision. Then his next loss, I guess he won a couple. Then after that, he lost to Glover Teixeira. He lost to him in the second round. So it's like, obviously, he's putting himself, he's exerting himself so much in that first round because he wants that finish. A lot of his finishes do come in the first round very, very fast. And so eventually, he fights, Magomed Ankalaev, who's on a tear right now. Nobody wants to fight him right now.
Yeah. He's going to end up being unranked.
Yeah. And it's
just like Zabit, which Zabit, I kind of understand.
Yeah.
When you were telling me about that, I was like, well, is he the one not taking fights or what? And you were like, yeah. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if he's not taking fights, that's on him. But Magomed, he's trying to get fights.
Yeah. Nobody wants to fight.
He's down to fight anybody.
Nobody wants to fight Khabib, I mean, he's dangerous, bro. And
he is Khabib big.
Yeah, exactly. And so he he has great stand up.
Better strike for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And but yeah, man, it's just with that fight, it did nothing for any of those guys. It showed Dustin Jacoby isn't ready to be fighting these top guys yet, which, I always want to see these guys who translate into MMA have success. It's always entertaining to see it, with these guys who come from jiu-jitsu backgrounds, from submission backgrounds, or from kickboxing backgrounds and boxing backgrounds. You want to know that these guys are the top. They're in the UFC for a reason. They're top-tier athletes. But whenever they're not translating well and they're not able to get wins against guys like Cutelaba, who is a good fighter, but it's just when they're not getting wins against them, then what's the point? Look at Gokhan Saki.
And when you're a top tier guy like Cutelaba should be, and you're fighting someone, not to say like Dustin Jacoby, but when you're fighting someone who you're expected to go out there and beat, and you don't do that, it looks even worse on you.
Yeah. So for our co-main event, we had Giga Chikadze defeat Cub Swanson, which is always sucks to see Cub Swanson lose. I'm such a big fan of his, but he lost. Giga Chikadze TKO'd him in the first round with just a little over the first minute of the fight with a really nasty body kick.
Yeah, really the only part of the fight you needed to see if you didn't see it. Not a lot happened, but what did happen was you see Cub trying to get in with his combinations, but he just can't get it going. And you have Giga just landing anything he throws. So when he threw that left body kick, he had it, and he knew he had it. And that's a kick he likes to throw, so that's a kick he knows how to throw and when to throw it. So as soon as he had it and it lands, the Cub takes a step back and keels over. And it's like, okay, well, that's it.
And that's what, watching Giga, he's a big featherweight. He does not look like he fights at featherweight at all.
He said he wants to fight Yair Rodriguez next.
And I think that's a good fight to make for Yair as well. I mean, that guy just got a 6-month suspension because he couldn't, keep his locations on with USADA.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's dumb, but I mean, it's the same situation with the Josh Barnett thing. It's just like,
Well, no, Josh Barnett said where he was.
Oh,
he told them, I will be backpacking through Europe, get in touch with my manager, and he will get in touch with me, and we'll get in touch with you. Yeah. Like, it's that simple. But they just didn't want to do it. They show up to his house anyway.
Yeah, and then they say he's not there. But like Yair didn't want to tell them where he was at, and so USADA suspended him for 6 months. I believe it was 6 months for that, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's actually very ridiculous to do that. I mean, these guys, I mean, what are they supposed to do?
Sorry, they have a life outside of being at home and being in the gym where you can randomly test them.
Yeah, and so it's just like, okay, I understand that there's a responsibility held up on these fighters, and so they're supposed to let the people know of their locations, where they're going to be at. But I like to see Giga Chikadze definitely fight Yair Rodriguez, make him fight. I would like to see him fight maybe even Brandon Davis. That'd be a good fight, which I actually believe they've already fought. Never mind. Scratch that. But
well, let me double check something. But I know a guy who would make for a really good fight with him. Paddy Pimblett. Because Paddy Pimblett is calling out Georgian fighters. Saying some controversial stuff, as he tends to do. I'm trying to remember what he said. He said something about like, they're basically calling them stupid, but saying like, yeah, they're idiots. They're always having these wars. That's why Russia terrorizes them, the people over in Georgia. And Giga Chikadze is a Georgian fighter. And I know he heard that, and I know he had issues with it. They're not in the same weight class.
No.
But I would love to see that fight. I think that'd be a really fun fight because I think Giga does not throw those kind of kicks against Paddy Pimblett, because Paddy Pimblett will take him down and he will submit him. And they both like to stand up and strike, so it'd be entertaining. I don't see Giga moving up or anything to go fight Paddy Pimblett, but if it happens, I'm going to be a happy dude because that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And so for the main event, it was Yura Prochazka defeats Prochazka. I always get his name wrong. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm Chael Sonnen.
You got to jump on the Yuri Prochazka train because it is leaving the station.
It is, yeah. He's trailblazing here. You can fast. Hop on the hype train. It's going to be a fun ride with this guy. Like, it is.
Second fight in the UFC, and they're already telling him he's won a title shot.
Yeah. And then, what's that? I mean, so he defeated Dominic Reyes, second round with a spinning back elbow.
Yeah.
Dirty. I mean, and that's what's so crazy about this guy. If you have never seen this guy fight before, go and look up his highlights when he fought in Ryzen. He's fighting these tournaments, same night tournaments, and all that stuff. This guy Yuri doesn't go with the game plan. He doesn't study his opponents. He just wants to fight, and he wants to have a good time doing it. He is.
He's a very old school, traditional martial artist mindset.
Yeah.
Where he just likes the idea that people are going into a cage and fighting using martial arts.
Yeah.
He finds it exciting, and that's what he really likes about it. He spent 5 years doing it in Japan. So his first fight was against Volkan Ozdemir in the UFC, which I think had a crowd, but it wasn't like a huge card, or maybe it didn't have a crowd, and it was after COVID.
This was before. I want to say it was before.
I think it was before as well, but it wasn't a huge crowd. It wasn't a huge card, and it was early prelims. But he came out and fought Dominic Reyes and looked really good. He had his typical stance, which is his hands are a little lower.
He made his debut July 2020. So it was
July 2020.
Yeah, it was
okay, so there was no crowd.
Yeah, it was a UFC 251. It was the first Masvidal versus Usman fight,
and there was no crowd for this fight either.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So when he talks about his fights, it's really fun to listen to because he likes the martial arts standpoint of it, and he likes the idea of fighting to see who's a better fighter, and not so much money or showmanship or the politics of how to get your rank higher. He likes to go in there and fight.
Yeah.
Because a fight shows who's a better fighter, and that's what he likes about it.
Yeah.
But in the first round, you have a pretty back and forth fight with him and Dominic Reyes. It was really good. You had him being the aggressor, but Dominic getting really good counter strikes. As soon as Yuri would catch him with a good one and possibly rock him with that strike, Dominic was right back in his face with something heavy.
Yeah.
Never really gave him a chance to get going. And then I think it was in the first round at one point. Prochazka got Dominic down, and Dominic landed a really good up kick. And I thought Prochazka had gone out.
It looked like he
fell on top of him, but I couldn't tell the way he did it. It was weird. It was weird looking, but the way he fell made it look like he was out for a little bit.
Which was even more like interesting about that was Dominic Reyes finally one of those good left hands that he throws. They finally landed, and he hurt Prochazka. He hurt Yuri very well. I'm just gonna start calling him Yuri. It's just making it easier.
There you go. That is his name.
Exactly. I'm gonna talk about him like we're friends now. I'm gonna call him on a first name basis.
Yeah. Me and old boy Yuri.
Yeah, me and my boy, and I was watching my boy put in that work on Dominic Reyes, but Dominic landed a really good left hand, and so finally you had him hurt. And you see Yuri just kind of stumble, and then Yuri eventually works and gets a takedown on Dominic Reyes. And it's like,
which is exactly what Dominic should have been doing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Dominic has bad takedowns or anything, but we don't see him do it often.
Yeah.
And I think, like, at this point in your career, you're at the top level.
Yeah.
You lost to John Jones. Okay, you weren't ready for John Jones. Neither were anyone else who fought John Jones. And then you fought Jan, and you didn't look good. And you got finished. So you're not ready for Jan, who's now the champion.
Yeah.
Who beat Israel Adesanya. Whether that's a big deal in light heavyweight division, it kind of depends on who you ask. Israel's a great fighter. Obviously, no one's going to argue with that. But he's not a light heavyweight, so does it really count? I don't think so. But Jan's very good, and he's proven it. So Dominic Reyes, you lost to you lost to Jan. Okay, why'd you lose? You lost because you kept getting pushed around, and then you got caught. So maybe work on being a little bit more versatile. You're a little predictable with your stand-up. So
because that left hand, I mean, it's very, you can telegraph that thing easily, and that's what Yuri was able to do. Whenever he wanted to throw anything involved his left hand, it was telegraphed. He could see that it was going to be a left hook. He could see it was going to be left straight.
And so every time Yuri was catching Dominic Reyes was using a strike to kind of keep him at bay, which is great. But at some point, go for a takedown, man.
Yeah.
Get that takedown, mix things up, show that you're not just a decent kickboxer.
So you're not just a knockout artist as well. I mean, he landed some good kicks in there in the first round, but after they got up from that takedown, you see that Yuri faked it and Dom fell for it because he expected a takedown again, because now it's like, oh shit, he can take me down even when he's rocked. And so it's kind of like, there's a lot of things that Dominic Reyes could have done, should have done, but I mean, I hope to see him back. Like we talked about, it was like whenever, right leading up to the knockout, I think I even says like, I really don't like seeing Dominic Reyes knocked out because he's such a hard worker. I mean, I don't think he really gets some of the respect he deserves, but I mean, it sucked to see it.
He doesn't, and like I was just saying, I don't think there's any shame in losing to John Jones or Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah.
Dominic Reyes has shown he's a top tier fighter.
Yeah.
He's got the striking for it. He's got the power for it.
He's an athlete.
Yeah, that was his pride and joy of running. Well, I'm a better athlete.
Yeah.
But you got to do something else. You got to change. Otherwise, people are just going to pass you up.
Yep.
You got to change lanes. And I think the Yuri fight shows he's still in that same lane.
Yeah.
So he's got to do something different.
Yeah.
But what's funny is Yuri, after the fight, is the one saying, yeah, I need to be better. They're like, oh, what do you mean? You looked phenomenal. A great spinning elbow knockout. That's crazy. And he was like, there were so many times where I could have finished that fight earlier, but I got caught.
Yeah, because he would pressure Dominic, and Dominic just didn't do anything when he would pressure him.
Yeah.
And so,
well, he'd throw like one hit.
Yeah.
He'd throw the one hit that would stop it, but then Yuri's right back on him.
Yeah.
And it's like doing the same thing. It's like it's like in basketball. You can keep hitting those twos, but if you're letting them hit threes, then you're not going to win that game.
And it's just, it was just, I mean, Yuri definitely showed that. I mean, there's a reason why he's probably fighting he's going to fight the winner of Glover versus Jan for the belt. And he just did a lot of things right. He's been in there before. He's been in championships before, so it's nothing new to him, you know? And
so what they're saying is if he fights for the title next, it'll be for the winner or against the winner of Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz, which by then, or not by then, it'll be for in front of a huge crowd. So that's something that they asked him, and his response was hilarious because his English is not the best.
How to say?
It's better than what he thinks. Yeah, he says how to say like 3 times, and it's fantastic. But yeah, they tell him like, so are you nervous or excited for the title shot? Because now it's going to be in front of a large crowd, probably here in Vegas. And he goes, crowd, what the F is that? And they kind of laugh and they're like, crowd, like a audience. And he goes, what? Oh, you mean people, okay. And he goes, no, I don't care. He was like, the people aren't in the cage. I don't, who cares? They're not there with me, so I don't need to know about them.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're so cool.
Another thing, he walked in when he came in with that ponytail. They asked him how he came up with that and stuff, and he's like, I just watch a lot of Muay Thai movies. So it's like, what the fuck, man?
And he made a joke. He was like, oh, it's my antenna. That's how I get the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
They asked him also, how did you come up with the elbow? Is that something you practice? Is that this or that? And he goes, oh, it's just flow, really. Like, it's just, I threw the one elbow, and when I turn, I know he's going to be coming after me because he'd been doing that for the whole fight. So I was like, well, let me throw another elbow. That might work. It's just kind of felt right to do in the moment. And that's what I did. And the reporters kind of went like, oh, okay. And then he just kind of goes, no, that's why I have the antenna. They send me what to do through my antenna.
That's funny, dude. But it was a dirty knockout. It was a clean performance.
Yeah, he's already in talks for knockout of the year.
I mean,
and a lot of people were like, well, that's just the recent bias. What about the Cody Sandhagen, Frankie Edgar knockout? Adrian Yanez is actually up for in that conversation as well.
Really?
Yeah. I want to say the head kick knockout over Gustavo Lopez.
Yeah, yep.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because Adrian's just, he's young in the UFC, but he's been doing it for so long. He's able to telegraph these shots that people throw. It's nuts. He threw that head kick. He knew that Gustavo was gonna go right into it. Yeah, it's just awesome to see.
Well, Gustavo's already rocked and he's leaning.
Yeah,
and with someone who is as quick to see a strike and where he needs to put it as Adrian Yanez, he's gonna get it.
Yeah,
because he does it whenever you're fully there, functional, and defending yourself, and he still places it really well and catches you because he's so quick. But yeah, so Yuri's already in talks for that. He's already in talks for a title shot in the light heavyweight division, which your second fight in the UFC, that's not an easy thing to do. It's kind of weird. I feel like maybe they're doing it because the light heavyweight division needs it. Because if it's not him, who do you have? You have Dominic Reyes. You have right now you have Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz fighting. You have Anthony Smith. So it's a lot of guys who have just kind of been there. So with Yuri kind of shooting himself into that top 5 ranked spot, which he was ranked 5th, I think, already, but now I don't know if he'll be ranked number 1, but he's gonna be up there. Glover, I imagine, is ranked number 1.
I think so, yeah.
So wherever he stands in the rankings is pretty cool, but I think they need it. So I hope he wins simply because I like him. He's fun. He's a cool dude. He's weird, but he is who he is. And that's all it's about. It's not about putting on a personality that people might like. He just goes out there and he says the weird things by himself, just like Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis just goes out there and says whatever's on his mind. Right. I think the sport needs that.
That's what the fighters, and we kept like, we knew but we couldn't remember it, was Alexander Rakic. Yeah, he right now he's ranked number 2. Glover's number 1, and then so I know that Yuri's probably about to be number 3 now. and so he's probably about to move up to his number 3 spot. But I mean, even then, I mean, if they don't want to give Yuri the next title shot, I mean, I think him and Alexander would be great for it. Maybe hold off, keep Alexander on the back burner just for right now. Let him see where he lands. But he's also just beat the past. He's beat the past 2 guys that fought for the title that wasn't recent. That wasn't Jan Blachowicz or Dominic Reyes. So I mean, you know, you don't want to see contenders getting knocked out first, but I mean, it's hard not to let those guys fight it out for the whoever's going to get the title shot. You know.
Well, I think if he ends up fighting Jan, that'll be interesting. Neighbor countries. Mm-hmm. Yuri is from the Czech Republic. Jan is Poland. So they have kind of like a friendly rivalry there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've ever met, but I know that that's been talked about from both of them. And I'm sure if Jan hasn't been asked about Yuri, he will now. That was definitely a message sent to the top guys. So I think if they fight, it will be very interesting. But if Yuri fights, I think he's 100% correct with him saying, no, there are too many holes in his game. Even though everybody praises him for that fight, there were a lot of holes. He was very open for anything, and Jan will take advantage of that. If he's not punching you in the face, he's taking you down. Yeah. And I think if Yuri goes in and fights the way he fought Dominic Reyes, I don't think he wins against Jan.
Yeah, I mean, Jan's just a dangerous fighter everywhere. He's good everywhere. And so with some of the shots that Dominic Reyes hit him with, I think if Jan lands those same shots, he puts him out. I mean, Polish power is real. So, I mean, you can't ever pass that up. But, I mean, it's just, I'm excited to see what's next for these guys. And I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see where Yuri's going to land now. I won't be surprised if by the end of this year we see him fighting for the title. And then with Dominic Reyes, I mean, I don't know what's going to be next for him. Maybe him fight Anthony Smith. I mean, what's going to be next for Dominic Reyes?
I think
it's 3 straight.
I think him and Anthony Smith would be a fun fight.
Yeah.
But I think if Dominic Reyes wants to further his career, he reevaluates himself as a fighter.
Yeah.
And then he goes back and he fights. Call it what you want, but pick your fights a little bit. Find someone who matches up well against you, but not in favor of you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go out there and find someone who's going to beat you up.
Yeah.
But find someone who will test you, but while you're trying to rebuild yourself, because he needs to rebuild a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
like I said, he can't go in there in the same lane. He can't go in there doing the same thing. Like you said, he's very one-dimensional, just showing off his kickboxing.
Yeah.
But he's got to do some wrestling. He's got to mix it up.
Yeah, because, I mean, you know, go against somebody like Anthony Smith, who is definitely going to watch after that left hand.
Anthony Smith will take him down and submit him.
And he has great jiu-jitsu. People sleep on it. I mean, it's just people forget that he's that good on the ground. And but yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see what's next for him. I like Dominic Reyes, but the thing is, though, it's just like, where's he gonna land now? And so I think that these fights definitely showed what's next for these future contenders. I mean, but yeah, I mean, that was kind of just the ESPN Vegas UFC 25. So
UFC on Vegas 25.
Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of other stuff has happened as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the fight with Diego Sanchez and Donald Cerrone has been pulled off of next week's card. Yeah. Diego Sanchez was pulled out due to undisclosed injury, and when we found out what really happened, it was just another story with Josh Fabia.
Being Josh Fabia.
Yeah. Well, with this one, I think is pretty interesting. I think if with all these weird stories and however you want to follow it, this one's actually kind of interesting, because I do think. Let me rephrase that. I don't think that Josh Fabia has Diego's best interest at heart.
No.
But I do think ultimately this is something that would have helped Diego, because what happened was he starts contacting the UFC, brass, we'll call it, for Diego's 17 years of UFC medical records, specifically some imaging that was done of some of his injuries, like his hands, and this was 10 weeks before the fight.
Yeah.
Or before this actually happened. So now it gets to the part where Hunter Campbell, which is the UFC's medical expert, I can't remember his title, but he's the one who kind of oversees that department. And I think what had happened is he calls Josh Fabia and he says like, hey, you're going around trying to get these medical records. We're being told that you're asking for, quote, Diego's last 17 years worth of medical records for any long-lasting injuries or long-term injuries. And he said, okay, well, you're trying to contact us, and we're not in charge of that. You have to go through the state to get that stuff because the state commission is the one who's in charge of that. Yeah. We don't have access to that stuff. So you're asking the wrong people. But now that you're asking us, like, why do you want this stuff? You're not a doctor. You're not. You don't really have any kind of authority to ask for that stuff. Why are you asking for it? And he turns around and says, well, Diego, he's been fighting for 17 years, man. You got to give us these records. These are his records. Why is he not entitled to have these records? And they're like, well, we understand that, but why do you want them? He's like, because what if he's got these injuries and over 17 years he's been fighting for this long, he's had injuries, the wear and tear of his body. And they say, okay, so are you saying that he's not 100% for his fight with Cowboy? And he goes, no, Diego's fine. He's like, okay, then why do you want these records? And he goes, because if this is his last fight. I'll kind of paraphrase here, but essentially he starts saying, well, this is his last fight, and we want to make sure that after his career with the UFC is over, they have some insight into his injuries, and they want to know if they can have those physical records to take them to possible checkups or he was like, why do we have to have new imaging done of Diego's body when we have old records already? And so Hunter Campbell asks him again. He's like, okay, so you want records of his old injuries, but there's nothing wrong with him. And he goes, right, exactly. And he's like, okay, then what I need from you is I need you to, in writing, give me Diego's writing saying I'm 100% mentally and physically ready for this fight and there's zero injuries. And Diego ends up saying, okay, I'll actually get to that because that's something Diego released a couple days after this happened. But Josh Fabio says, yeah, whatever you want, man. We'll jump through any hoops you guys need, but I just don't understand why we can't get these records. And he's bringing it up again. And Hunter Campbell says, look, I went through this with Mark Hunt. This is exactly what we did with Mark Hunt. Yeah. So send me that email. I'll send you an email, and I need you to respond as soon as I send that email in writing saying you don't have any issues. And what I take from that is a couple days after that, Diego released a video of him saying, kind of talking about that situation. And it's Diego. Now, he's not holding the camera, so I got to assume Josh Fabia's over here holding the camera, probably conducting Diego on what to say, because that's the kind of person it seems like he is. Yeah. But Diego makes some decent points. He says, look, I've been fighting for these guys for years. And I should also say that Hunter said towards the end of the phone call, if Diego ever needs us after his career is over with the UFC, if he ever needs us, if he ever has an issue or a medical issue or anything, just contact. He can contact me or Dana or Sean Shelby. He can contact any of us and we will take care of him. So Diego starts talking about it and he's a little upset and he's saying that, these are my records. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to get them whenever I want. And he was saying, if I have all these injuries, I need to know that I'm going to be taken care of, because what happens if I don't, if I'm not 100% afterwards, which, who would be. And he says that what he thinks ended up happening is them telling him, hey, we need you to tell us you're 100%. Otherwise, we're going to pull the fight. And he said, of course, what fighter can say they're 100%? I think that's a stupid question. Yeah. And he says, so I talked to my lawyers, I talked to Josh, and I think what they're trying to do is have me say, no, I'm 100%. And because then I sign away all liability from them. So now if anything ever happens with me, medically, they don't have to take care of me. They don't have to help me, even though I just gave nearly 20 years of my life to them.
Yeah.
If I have an injury because of what the career I had in the UFC, now they don't have to take care of me because I told them, no, I'm 100%. There are no injuries. And I think I kind of do agree with that. I think, I think in this instance, Diego's looking at the UFC as a corporation that he works for. And he calls them $1 billion corporation, actually, in the video, I think. So I think he's looking at them like they're a corporation, and they are trying to find a way to not take care of him. I don't know that that's the truth.
Right.
But I understand the concern.
Yeah, because look what happened with somebody like Spencer Fisher.
Spencer Fisher freaking deserves some respect from the UFC. He deserves some help from Dana and the UFC after everything he did for them.
And then Dana wanted to be, honestly, he was a piece of shit and was like, yeah, man, these things happen. You know?
These things happen.
Yeah.
When a contractor hires when someone hires someone to build their house, they've contracted them. Mm-hmm. If the builder falls off their house, no, they don't have to pay for this. They don't have to take care of them. But I do think that this is a little different.
Right.
Let's compare them to other athletes, because I don't understand why they don't get compared to other athletes. Because that's what they are. And that's what this is. If an NFL player gets hurt on the field or in training camp, or just regular practice in the weight room, whatever, if they get injured, they're taken care of by the NFL and Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
No one's going around asking Roger Goodell, hey, what is this guy being taken care of? Because we know they're getting taken care of.
Yeah.
No one's asking Roger Goodell, hey, is this guy getting taken care of? And Roger Goodell goes, oh, no, we're not doing anything. That happens. You know, that's the name of the game. Yeah. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
The NBA doesn't do that. MLS doesn't do that. MLB doesn't do that. No one does that except the UFC.
Yeah. Boxing doesn't even do that.
No, boxing will take care of you.
Yeah.
That's why they pay their fighters millions and millions of dollars
for a reason, and that's why the UFC doesn't want to be involved in the MMA union, because these guys will be able to have the rights to get these surgeries and get the protection that they need, and actually be able to support their families and have health insurance. Health insurance isn't a joke. I mean, I've talked with people who are independent contractors, and when I talk with them about health insurance, like, they do what they can to not go to the doctor because of how ridiculously priced it is. Even with people that are retired, like recently I talked to my grandpa, he has to get a root canal. He's retired. Whenever you get Medicare, when you get older, over the age of 65, they don't include dental plans. And then you have to pay a fucking ridiculous amount of money to do it.
The dentures?
Yeah, because they're just like, fuck it. But I mean, it's the same thing with this. It's like with Diego Sanchez, I don't trust Joshua Fabia. The whole thing sounds like a ploy to get involved in a lawsuit against them and to say something about them. And just to start some shit, because that's what that guy did. I mean, the whole video footage with him and Paul Felder, him arguing Paul Felder and Megan Olivier, and the whole UFC commentary team saying that, oh, y'all are favoring these other fighters over Diego. No one's favoring over Diego. Diego's just going in there getting his ass whooped. I mean,
that's one of the statements he said, but that's not what that argument was about.
Yeah.
What he went in there for, let me rephrase that, what Diego got them in there for, into that office in front of Paul Felder and Megan Olivier and Angela Hill, what he got them in there for was because he had a plea that said, hey, you guys were kind of bad-mouthing me during my fight, and as a broadcasting team, that's unprofessional. What Josh Fabia made it about was, you guys don't respect me. And
I don't respect Josh. No one respects
Paul
Joshua
Felder
Fabia.
straight up said, dude, who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. Why would I talk badly about you? I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You're not a fighter. And he straight up says again, he's like, Diego's in here. I respect Diego. Diego knows I respect him. I would never say anything bad about him.
Yeah.
But I don't know you. So you can't come in here yelling at me saying I don't respect you when I didn't say a word about you because I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And it was just like the issue with, or the incident with Matt Serra in Abu Dhabi. Josh Fabio ran into him at a restaurant and started calling him out, saying they don't respect him. And Matt Serra's just confused, like, I don't know who you are. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Fabio's out there for, I guess, to add to his...
He's chasing the clout, man. That's what he is.
He's clout chaser.
He's clout chasing.
But he's going about it all wrong.
He's a 40-year-old that's clout chasing.
He also released that phone call between him and Hunter. And I think he thought that like he was releasing it and he's like, oh, this will show everybody that we're just trying to get medical records. We're trying to take care of Diego, and they don't want us to. But Hunter straight up says, yeah, no, if he reaches out to us, we will take care of him. And I do believe him, because when has Dana not taken care of anyone? And I'll be very specific with it, but when has he not taken care of anyone from The Ultimate Fighter 1?
Yeah.
He took care of all of those guys. Mm-hmm. How long did Josh Koscheck last in the UFC, even though he was getting knocked out left and right?
Look at Forrest Griffin.
Forrest Griffin still has a job with the UFC.
He still Stephen Bonner was there at that whole thing.
For a long time.
Stephen Bonner was actually at that whole situation when Joshua Fabia confronted all of those guys.
Yeah, and you can hear him talking in the video.
Yeah, and he's actually recording it. And he said, "I'd never wanted to attach my name to this, but it's like now it has to be said." And
so you have those guys. You have Chris Lieben, who went through a lot of trouble and problems, but the UFC was there.
Yeah.
Mike Swick, Kenny Florian. There's just so many guys that. What was his name? The heavyweight, Bobby Southworth.
Yeah.
Bobby Southworth is one of the head coaches at one of the UFC gyms.
Yeah.
This dude didn't make it very far in his UFC career as a fighter. But the UFC reached out to him, years and years later, saying, "Hey, we want you to be a head coach here." And he was like, "Oh, I can't believe you still have my number, Dana." And they were like, "Of course we do."
That was actually because that's when they had the reunion between all the Ultimate Fighter, and he talked about it. And,
so do I think that Dana White, if Diego reached out to Dana White, would Dana White take care of him? Yeah, I do. So
I just think he has
Fabia's making it worse for them.
He has that parasite of a person attached to him to where they're like, we don't want to help you because we don't trust him.
But again, I completely understand when you don't trust a corporation to take care of you.
Yeah.
Because why would they?
Yeah.
Especially when you just sign away saying, "No, I'm 100% okay." And they go, "Oh, well,
here's
later down the road," like he's like, I have this injury from when I was in the UFC. And they go, "Nope, for your last fight, we have you saying right here that you were 100%, buddy."
Yeah. It's just a whole big old mess, dude. And I feel for Diego Sanchez, but I think it was also time he wasn't looking good in these fights. When he fought Michel Pereira, like I didn't agree with
bad.
He looked terrible in that fight. And the thing is just when he fought Jake Matthews, he tried to do like the Jorge Masvidal flying knee in that fight. And you got your coach in the corner telling you to be like Tyson and stuff. And
which there's no way Diego does that on his own.
No,
there's no way he was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this." That worked out for him.
Yeah,
no, because when has Diego ever looked at another fighter and said, "I'm going to do exactly that"?
Yeah,
no. Josh Fabia saw some dude do this on YouTube and goes, "Oh, this is pretty cool. I think you should try it."
Yeah, and then after that, it's like, bro, straight up, if you want to see how much of a joke this fucking guy is, I can't stand Joshua Fabia. I have a ton of respect for Diego Sanchez. Just go look up Joshua Fabia fucking hitting the bag, dude. I mean,
oh man,
it's literally like you're just like walking through the New York subway, just like pushing your way through everybody. That's what he does. I think this guy he's not a coach. He is terrible for somebody like Diego Sanchez. He has taken a ton of damage in his UFC career. I don't think he's never really been mentally in a very good spot. I mean, he's had alcohol issues, he had drug issues before, and not anything severe with drugs, but he's openly talked about it. But it just with Diego Sanchez taking the damage that he has, I think he should have stopped fighting a little while back before this loose streak that he's been on, and so I just don't really agree with Joshua Fabia at all, and I hope to see Diego Sanchez get the help that he deserves. Fuck Joshua Fabia. And so, straight up, dude. All fucking 50 of our viewers are gonna hear me say that, but what's it called?
You think we have 50 viewers?
So,
you think 10 people made it to the end of this video?
I hope so. That'd be really, really
Just
nice.
like we did last time. If you made it this long in the video, leave a comment.
Yeah, let me know what you think about Joshua Fabia, man. Give me your. I want to know your input.
Actually, no. Yes, actually, go do that. If this is where you're at in this video, stop. Go look up footage of Joshua Fabia, Fabia, training, and then come back to this video and leave a comment of your thoughts.
This is the same guy that had to go to the commission, told the commission, "Oh, me and Diego have created this choke that could kill somebody."
Yeah.
And so we just want to make sure it's legal by y'all. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, you could kick somebody in the head and kill them. What are you getting at?
Like that's some like early UFC stuff where they were like, "Oh, I don't know if you want to fight this guy. He's actually done the 1-inch punch and killed someone, dude.
Yeah.
Do you really want to fight him?"
Yeah, and then after that hoist race, he comes in and fucking triangles you.
And it's just triangles him unconscious and goes, "Yeah, that wasn't so hard."
Yeah, that touch of death, you just fucking tickled my armpit. What is that shit? Like, No, man. I don't know. I just hate to see that Diego Sanchez in that position, but then again, he is a grown man and he needs to have some respect for himself and just distance himself from that guy because no one wants to deal with Joshua Fabia. Nobody does, and they know he's a problem child. They know he's an issue.
Yeah, so
And
I don't blame the UFC for cutting. Oh, and another thing that we should add, they did cut Diego Sanchez and they did pull the fight from him with Cowboy. But they did pay him, and they paid him the money to show and to win.
And also his Venom gear bonus.
And the Venom gear bonus.
Yeah,
so
they paid him in full.
I think they're showing that, we'll take care of Diego.
Yeah.
We want nothing to do with Joshua Fabia. And if we have to keep interacting with Joshua Fabia, it's just not worth keeping.
And you know that they gave him that money because they wouldn't do that with anybody else, but they gave him that money because they like Diego and they hated to see that happen. But it is what it is, and hopefully we'll see something good happen for Diego soon. I'm pretty sure Joshua Fabia is trying to work on a lawsuit. I thought it was very random to see them working with Spencer Fisher, and but I know that Spencer Fisher and him are friends. But it's just I don't know. I don't agree with it. But now going back to the cards and everything, the card that fight was set for May 8th, and now we don't really know what's gonna happen with Donald Cerrone. They're trying to find him.
That fight's pulled.
Yeah.
What was the other fight that was pulled? Corey Sandhagen.
Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. That fight got pulled because TJ Dillashaw had a headbutt, pretty nasty gash above his eyebrow, and he got some stitches on his eyebrow. And
so now that card, the Michelle Waterson fight that got moved up is now the headliner.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna try to do something else with that weekend. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, right now, even if you're looking at the card, and we were doing everything we could yesterday to look into it, and there's really no announced. I mean, there's announced fights, but there's nothing set in stone for that entire fight card next Saturday. And so, I mean, there's just one middleweight fight, and it's what's that? There's a middleweight fight. It's Jun Young Park versus Tafon Nuchukui. There we go. I got it. I just sounded out. But yeah, so they're trying to find Donald Cerrone opponent. Michelle Waterson is supposed to headlight against Marina Rodriguez for that card. There's a lot of great fights happening on that card that are announced, but I think Ben Rothwell was supposed to fight on that card, but I did hear he might be injured. Angela Hill's fighting Amanda Hebos on that card. Neil Magny's going to fight Jeff Neal.
That's a good fight, too.
Yeah. It's a great card. I'm hoping it happens. They have Gregor Gillespie coming back after his loss to Kevin Lee a couple years ago. He's coming back to fight Carlos Ferreira.
Yeah.
Then you got Phil Halls, Kyle Dawkins. We're excited for that fight.
That'll be a good fight. That'll be real fun, too. It's a good card, and it just had the main and the co-main taken away from it. So
And so Maurice Green's also fighting. I love watching Maurice Green fight. And
the crochet boss.
Yes, that guy, dude. He's fun to watch, man. He's just a big, nice guy, and he throws down. But I mean, I'm hoping they get it together. I'm excited to talk about this card as well. I'm hoping they're able to find Cerrone another fight because I had a feeling that this was probably going to be his last fight.
It's hard to say with him because he just doesn't quit.
He doesn't, no.
And he doesn't really show signs that he needs to quit. I think you can take the Conor fight and just kind of do away with that because he didn't show anything wrong. He got caught with a shoulder strike that broke his nose. What do you want him to do about that?
Head kick, and then
he got caught by a head kick subsequently after that. So
there's a lot of good shots that Conor landed against him, but Conor, I mean,
in such a short amount of time.
Fight was only 40 seconds.
I mean, so I don't think you can really hold that against Cowboy.
Yeah.
I think Cowboy is still Cowboy. He just may not go on a title run.
And that's anything. What I mean. Even his fights before that, I mean, he was already back in title contention at lightweight whenever this happened. He had 2 losses to Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje before the Conor fight, and both those guys didn't fight for the interim belt during of May of last year. So I mean, it's not like he's fighting bad competition. He fights Conor McGregor, who's already gonna be if he beats Dustin Poirier, he's fighting for the title next. So that guy's already up there. He fought Anthony Pettis in a fight that a lot of people thought that he won in that rematch.
And then he had the fight with
Nico Price,
which was ended by an eye poke.
And it seemed, I mean, it's just it's just a to being overturned to a no contest.
Yeah,
it was a draw.
I don't think you can really call it a career yet.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to, obviously go for it.
Yeah,
but
I don't think he wants to.
I don't think he wants to either. And I don't think he needs to.
Yeah, and I think I mean, it seems like he's just had a bad it's just a string of bad luck, So, but yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be talking about that this week. I'm very excited to talk about that. A lot of good fights happening. And so, but yeah, before we go, I did want to bring up the PFL fights. Rory McDonald won his fight. He beat Curtis Melinder.
Yeah. First round submission. A lot of first round submissions on that card.
Ray Cooper, he got a submission as well. So, but yeah, we'll be definitely tuning in this week for a new episode, and a lot of good things to talk about. A lot of good things coming up very, very soon as well.
Yeah, we're going to, like I keep saying, we're working on some things, working on some great things, working on some small things. We are working on having some merchandise. We are working on having some guests. We're working on having different videos with actual video in it.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to say thank you to my brothers, Andrew and Dylan. I love y'all for what y'all did. Well, I love y'all regardless, but thank y'all so much for the birthday present they got me. They got me a camcorder, so eventually we start implementing video into our podcast, which I'm very excited to do, so they can start putting, voices to names. I'm fat too. I'm short, I'm fat, and I can't grow a beard, so I'm just hanging out now. So, yeah, there's that.
Well, yeah, we appreciate everybody coming and listening this long. Please go watch Joshua Fabia footage and then let us know what you think. Please.
Let me know how bad you want to punch a fucking mirror after that too, dude.
And like I said, we're working on a lot of things. A lot of things are kind of happening quickly, and we have to be prepared for it. So we're trying to pace ourselves and do things right. So we appreciate the support, and we definitely want it to keep growing. So please give us a like and subscribe.